Hi, and happy Monday and happy President's Day if you're watching live. I'm Janet Leonard. I am the founder and CEO of Virtual Instructor, and I do a 15-minute live presentation every Monday with some sort of shortcut. So, our motto is we want to help you reclaim your valuable time so you're not wasting time in software programs doing things that should only take a few minutes. So, today we're going to talk about some tricks in Excel. So I'm going to pop over to show you my website. And over on our website, if you are interested in learning more about some of our Monday lives, you can go to our calendar. So I'll just click on that. It takes you over. If you would like to have an email reminder 1 hour before, so every Monday, 1 hour before we go live, just fill your name and email address in here. We won't bombard you with a bunch of emails. We'll only use this to send you information about the upcoming live. So today we're going to talk about Microsoft Excel and some tips on working with lists of data. And then next week, I'm going to talk about how to create infographics in PowerPoint. And then on March 7th, I'm going to talk about a lot of the new updates that Zoom has made. And so if you use Zoom, you might want to watch that to see some of the new things that they've added. All right, enough of that. Let's pop into Excel. And in Excel, I have 5 different sheets set up just to do different demonstrations for you. And the first one is an example. If you've ever inherited a list with names in it and you really need to split it into multiple columns. So let me show you how long this list is so you can see how valuable this tool is to know about. So all I'm going to do is hold down the control key. I'm on a PC. If you're on a Mac, substitute command instead. But I'll hold down the control key and tap the down arrow key. And you can see that we have 945 records. So I'll just do control home or control up arrow. That just takes me back up to the top. And if we go over to the tab that says data, in there over toward the middle, depends on the size of your monitor, you'll see something that says text to columns. Now, if you don't see the actual words text to columns, look for that little icon there. And I'll click on that. And this brings up a little dialog box. Now, this data is separated by a period, a space. So basically what I'd like Excel to do is every time it sees a space, I want that to separate it out into a different column so that I get the Mr., Ms. in one column, I get the first name in another column, and I get the last name in a third column. So it's not a fixed width. Those of you that work with downloads, in some of the older systems and some of the mainframes, you might get things where the invoice number or the contract number is the first 14 characters, and then the next 20 characters is the name of the company. That's a fixed width. With delimiter or delimited, you get to tell it the character that you want it to look for. So I'm going to say it's delimited, and I'll choose next. And then what happens? Let me cancel out of here. Minor detail, I should select the entire block. Okay, so here's the trick. Hold down the shift key, the control key, and tap the down arrow key. That selects the entire block. Okay, so I want to do the whole thing. I'll go back over to text to columns. And the reason I could tell there was a problem is I only saw one name there. So this now shows me all of the names and the things that are going to be modified. So you can use this little preview to kind of clue yourself in if you selected all the data you want. All right, so we're back to delimited. I'll click next. And then I don't have tabs separating things. So I'm going to remove tab, but I want it to look for a space. So watch what happens in the data preview. As soon as I say the separator, the delimiter is a space, see how it now separates these out to 3 columns, because that's Excel's way of saying, okay, I think what you want me to do is look at that data you selected and split it into columns every time I see a space. So then I'll click next. And then in this case, I'll just keep it as general, but since they are all text, I could say, no, it's going to be text. I'll just keep it general. And then I'll just choose finish, and look how quickly it separated these out. And I'll just double click to make the columns a little bit wider. And if we do a control down arrow, look at that. It did it for all 945. So if you didn't know about this little trick or this command, you're probably spending at least a half hour, maybe an hour retyping this or cutting and pasting it. And then you got to make sure you didn't make typos if you were retyping it. So that's a really nice one to speed things up. Right, now I'm going to go over to the split download. And this is another example where we can use the text to columns. This is a smaller one, but to give you an idea, some of you may download data from mainframes and it's all separated out by commas or semicolon. Now, just so you see, I'm in cell A1. All of that information is in cell A1. If I click over in cell B1, notice there's nothing there. It just happens to be spilling over. So I'll select from A1 down to A25. I'll go back up to text to columns, and I'll say this is a delimited one. I'll choose next. Now, by default, it's remembering what I did before, which was a space, but I don't want those commas in there. So I'm going to say it's a comma and a space. And so now what that's done is it's gotten rid of, it says, okay, every time I see a comma and a space, that's where I need to separate it. So I'll choose next. I'll keep it as general, so I don't have to go to each individual one and change it, but you could go to each column and say, this one's text, this one's a number or date or general. I'll just choose finish, and look how quickly we were able to separate that out. So if you have to deal with stuff like this and you don't know about text to columns, my guess is you're spending a lot more time on things than you need to. All right, so now I'm going to show you another little trick. I'll go over to remove blank rows. And in here, here's an example of a large spreadsheet, but somebody went in and put a bunch of blank rows in between things. And I need this to just be one solid block of data. Now, in this case, I don't have to actually highlight the information. Excel's smart enough to realize that I'm kind of talking about everything from column A to column G down to the last cell in this really large bunch of data. So what I can do is go back up to the Home tab, and way over to the right is this thing called Find Select. Now I'm just going to kind of change the size of this window so that you can see that it's, if I make it smaller, watch this area here, because depending on the size of your monitor, it may look just like this. It may shrink. I doubt it's going to be this tiny, but sometimes it gets so tiny it moves into just editing, and then you can come over and find it. So I'll maximize mine. So I'm just going to go to Find and Select, and you go down to this thing called Go to Special. And in Go to Special, you can tell it to look for different options. I'm going to say look for blanks. And as soon as I choose OK, notice how it's highlighting all those cells in this kind of large block that are blank. So then all I have to do is click on Delete, and it's deleted all those blank rows. And now I have one nice solid block of data. All right, only two more things to show you. And I'm going to move over to the tab that says Names. Now here's something. I'll go back up to the top, and I'm going to select, I'm just going to do a control down arrow so you can see how many names I have here. I have over 2,700 records, right? So if I had to go through and I needed to make sure I only had a unique representation for each of these names, that's a lot of work to manually go through and try to figure these out, even if they're sorted like they are, right? So instead, what I can do is once again, select the block. So I don't care about first name, last name, I'll keep that. So I'm going to move down to cell A2, hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to tap the right arrow key because that selects it. Then while I still have the Shift key held down, I'm going to hold down the Control key and the down arrow key, and that selects this entire block really quickly. Then while we're still on, we've got to go back to the Data tab. There's also an option called Remove Duplicates. So if I click on Remove Duplicates, in this case, I only have the two columns, first name, last name. And the reason is it recognizes that this data that I've got selected has a header. So the first row is not supposed to be part of the sort or the remove duplicates. In this case, I want to say, yeah, look at all the first names and last names and make sure I have a unique representation of that combination. So when I choose OK, it comes up and it tells me it found 1,761 duplicates and removed them. So if you're trying this at home or at your office, make sure you make a copy of that spreadsheet if you're going to use this, because it is going to literally delete them. So I'm going to choose OK, and we will have 942, I think it said. So if I hold down the Control key, tap the down arrow key, look at that. I'm at 943, but remember the first row was a header. So again, didn't that That would save you a tremendous amount of time if you need to find remove any duplicates. All right, one last one for the shortcuts or the tips for the day. I'm going to go over to this one called tour details. Here's an example where I have a lot of different columns. And just to show you, I'll hold down the control key, tap the down arrow key. There's 2,700 records here. So it's a big block of data. I'll go back up to the top. Now, in this case, what if I said, I want to see the unique representation of the first name, last name, and I want to know, I don't care if they went on a 10-night Bahama cruise 3 different years. I just want to know if they ever did one of them. So I don't want to see if they went on 3 different, 3 different years. I don't want to see it 3 times. I just want to see a unique representation. So once again, okay, we're in this block here, right? And if I go to remove duplicates, watch what happens. I'm in this block. So this time I didn't select it. It automatically selected. Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying this, Terry. So it just automatically selected the block. So if you're not comfortable, select it first ahead of time. Now, by default, look at that. It assumes you want to find unique in every single column in that block, but I don't want to do that for this example. I'll choose unselect, and then I'm just going to mark the couple columns, a few columns I want. So first name, last name, and then I want the tour name. That's all I'm interested in. And so now I'll just choose OK. It tells me that it found 265 duplicates and removed them. So that means I still have 2,438 unique values. I'll choose OK. And sure enough, watch when I do control and the down arrow key, I'm down at 2,439 because remember, the first row was a header. So can you imagine if you needed to do this, how much time that would have saved you? Look at this. I did this all in about maybe 10 minutes max. If you didn't know these tricks, I think you're probably talking several hours of work. So hopefully this will help save you some time and let you move on to more exciting projects. And I will say goodbye to y'all. I hope you have a wonderful President's Day. Thanks for those of you that are watching, and I hope you're having the day off. And I'm really impressed if you're watching this and it's your day off. So have a great rest of your day, and hopefully you'll join me next week when I show you how you can use in PowerPoint, how you can create infographics. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.